to me is my place of solace. When you find something that you are so happy doing, there's a there's a kind of peace. It's always been a part of my life, and it's always been a part that made me maybe delve into a space, be happier for it. I come from a family that has always discussed art and creativity, and I have a writer in the house. We have photographers. We've had people who've done a lot of stuff related to art. So art has never been far from my vicinity as a person. We'd be discussing, whose art was in the house, what was being put up, why was it being set up, and why. So it's always been inculcated in me. I don't think I've had a certain point where I sat back and said, wow, art is a part of mine. Um, you know, so it's always been that way till I went to boarding school. And I went to boarding school, and of course, I was dabbling in the fine arts at that point. So I've done a lot of artwork and with that. So it's always been an expression to me that's always been a part of life. And so I think that's where art became a process for me. So it's never been something that, I was like, oh, good, goody, this has come out. It was just something that was inculcated, that came into my being. And when you're younger, you don't realize that your expression is yourself. So what you do, your hair, how you're portraying yourself is your expression, and your art till you understand the formality. And that formality only came to me when I was in college. So, but in Indian culture, I love Julius Makwan does some beautiful pieces, because I really believe that his sensuality, and it's not, and you never know sometimes if it's male or female, you don't know where, but that sensuality comes across to you. I love Seema Kohli's work. I love her intricacies and her, the sense of that patience of the time, and and the wings, and just having flight and womanhood, and showing women as they are. So I really like that. I like that sensuality, that sexualism in a painting, or a photographer, photographer that. So I like the enormity of the art of Disney World was the fact that Walt Disney had created worlds that wouldn't break your fantasy. And for me, that is ultimately important as an artist, for me to have a Walt Disney as an artist that I looked up to. For me, it was really important that he didn't break that fantasy. And I think that is ultimately important in film, where you don't break the fantasy. So you really have to study the period, the art deco, bringing out the old for people to understand. It's really important when you're portraying, when you have a responsibility when you're in any kind of field of art. And I feel it's really important to show. When I was dealing with Silk Smita for Dirty Picture, yes, there is always that expression where people, you've hidden faces, or your hidden bodies, you have these beautiful sensual bodies and hidden. And my biggest fear while doing the film was that we didn't show her lascivious. This is the story of her life, about her sensuality, about who she is, and how, and what becomes of her as an actress, and as a non-star, and as going through that process. So it's very important for me to show it sensual, and that, I think, is your expression, Amma, is your expression. There were times in as Silk Smita, if you saw Vidya Balan, she didn't look glamorous. She wasn't in the space of being that glamorous self. But if you looked at her, it was artistically done. It was done from a space of her getting deep down with the character and understanding that agony, and that space of discomfort, and craziness, to come from that and to show that on screen. I think it's very important to be honest to yourself. Was Vidya Balan, putting herself out there and not being glamorous, and we didn't need her to be. you know, we needed to show the, the angst of this woman. We needed to show her, and that should show in everything that comes out, in her costume and in her look and everything. So that's what we did for Sultan. So that art and expression had to be on a balance so that she didn't look, um, you didn't look at her like, oh my God, that's gross, or that's ugly. You looked at her and said, oh my God, that's really sad, you know, and that's the expression. As Ravindra Reddy said, we are voluptuous, curvy women. We are not, we're not stick figures. As Indian women, we are who we are. And we have to um, embrace that. And we have to show that. And we have to show that in film. We have to show that in every way, in every form of artistic expression that we have today. And we need to have that pride in who we are. And it's very important to show that, it is important. I understand there's a glamour quotient in Bollywood, and we need to show glamour. And when that needs to happen, we do that as well. But there are times when we need to show glamour as a full bodied, beautiful Indian woman. We are now okay with our skin. Skin was a big problem at one point, and fairness has always been something that we talk about. But so are our curves, and so are who we are. And we have to embrace that in all forms of art, whether it be in costume, whether it be in whichever, and you have to do it. And each person has their own expression. My expression is a little more real space, real, making it cinematically beautiful. So, that has to come across, and that embracing is important for all of us to. And it is I think, our responsibility to the other women in this country to say, look, this is beautiful, but this is also beautiful, and this is also beautiful, and this is who we are. And I think that is an important expression to bring about. Raja Ravi Verma for me was a very important aspect in my growing up, because for me, it was Indian pop art. It was what we finally got a look of gods and goddesses and what they looked like. Till then, there was no real figures for these beautiful women. So when I was given the movie to do, I was very excited about it, and we discussed the fact that this was my tribute to women. If women had been, and goddesses, I think, and as we all say now, everyone is, all the women are talking about divas, and us being divas, that's exactly what it is. The diva, Indian goddess, the Devi. So I think that was extremely important for me. So I did a lot of research with his paintings, because we had to recreate, which was very exciting. And we had to, again, like all movies, we had to show his angst through it, and his growing up, and his as a man understanding a woman and a woman's body. And so it was really exciting for me. And research has always been about, studying the art, studying where it comes from, whatever your subject. So for me, there were a lot of paintings, beautiful books of his that have come out, and those, and the Indian figure, and trying to portray that, because that beauty, the way they sit, the way they move, the way they, so it was beautiful. And those were the things that we had to get out, and especially when they were doing the stills, when he's doing his paint. So research for me is ultimately important, and then that merging of the research with the reality that you're creating for a period film, because it is period. So you're studying the period and the time, the reality, and then bringing that into with your cinematic liberty of bringing it. I love working on period films. I love working on period films because it takes you to a different time and space. And if you can create that in art, and it has to be a collaboration with film, it has to be a collaboration with your set designer, your production designer, your art director, your director telling you how to put it together, and your director of photography, the way he lights it to bring the mood of the. Between Bombay Velvet and my first movie, Khoya Khoya Chand, which was a period film. Um, I didn't realize how fortunate I was to start my first film on a period film, but and to have a period film in Bollywood, which for me I didn't even know. And so for Bombay Velvet, it was a whole different ball game for me because it was decades of working these women and people going. I love that system because it enchants you and it takes you to another world. And if you can portray that and you can get that out in any way, um, and and take somebody through a journey of another world. You've never been to that time. You were too young to see that time. But to have a Khoya Khoya Chand that you look at and look up to and say, wow, that period has engrossed me, enthralled me. That is that is creating your own space of art. And that has to be done. That bridging where you take somebody away from their reality and put them into a different reality and make it theirs and give them that and don't break that fantasy through the movies. I love working in pictures, movies that have a vast change in either in people or in the person itself. And an artist, to work on an artist, like when I worked in Fitur, as you said, it's great expectations. We've all read it. We've all read it as children. It's one of the biggest classics. We've all, lived through their lives. And when Abhishek Kapoor adapted it to Kashmir and stuff, which is beautiful, just Kashmir is like a painting, you know. So then to put these people into that painting and how it would work, that was really important. So in the new age, to have an artist in Kashmir to be going through that kind of angst, you know, to have a Katrina being someone, he looked up to, that he loved, and how, he would pursue that and that engulf him. Um, it's beautiful. I've also, I keep saying that you get put into things, your life happens, and they're all life lessons that you learn. I did I did psychology in college, and I keep thinking about it. So when I'm reading a script and I'm listening to this, because it's always great emotion and great, it's always over the top, and it's something that so you understand it and you understand where that's coming from and how that artist would express themselves. What would be their expression of self to get that out onto it. So yeah, so had to have and there's a huge difference when you look at a Raja Ravi Verma and you look at the two. There's a difference between the characters. We're all different. We're different in time, like I spoke about my little time capsule. We're different in ages. We're different in varying ages of ourselves. And it's very important to make sure that you're true to capture that. Like I said, it has to be true to capture that essence of the person to put out. Whether it be a Katrina or an Aditya, whatever it is, whatever you're doing in Futur, and whether it be Imran, in Delhi Valley, whatever it is, you have to be true to that character and what they're going through and who they are at that point and bring that. So that's the fun, and that's the, for me, is the art of every piece that you do, because it has to be that. And then you give your expression, which is lovely. I think both costume design and fashion design have the ability of transforming you. So yes, it is contemporary art. It is where you decide how you want it to look, or you decide, you take the, Instagram, for example, today, the Sartorialist is a huge site. They had started a book where they just did street fashion. Japanese street fashion is an art form in itself, and you look at it, and it's transporting people into a different world, into a different space, into a different understanding of that culture and that space of where they're at and what they're doing. And fashion designers do that more than costume, because costume designers, we do it for a period of time. It is our expression. It is contemporary art because we are creating that. And it is For fashion designers, it's a far wider field. What am I researching? I'm researching the time period, the fashion designers who created that time period and how they created and what was going on with them. When we had, how did silk happen in India? With us bringing so much silk, and where there was a Chantilly lace coming. So when there were the shipments were coming, when we were trading with different countries, those were the fabrics that were coming. So when I use fabrics also in film, it's about where was it coming from, what was it doing, and these fashion designers today are creating that time capsule for us, the artwork of this time in this capsule for us here, that will be carried forth, and people will look at it and say, oh my god, that was the fashion of the time, and that is art. If you look back at it, that's what's creating the art, and it might not be on your wall, but it might be on yourself. But that's what's creating who we are today, and what people will look back in that time capsule and see. I would like to thank the Kiran Nadar Museum of Art for bringing art and costume together and understanding that costume is a part of art.